David Bowerly here. Welcome to another episode of Furniture Restoration. Enjoy. Hi, this is David Bowerly, and this is just a short, certainly not all-inclusive video, but it's about stripping clear finishes. Mostly shellac and lacquer is what you're going to run into. Shellac was used on most of the antiques that were made pre-1920s, I suppose, and then they moved on to the modern finishes of lacquers and conversion varnishes later on. But we'll start with shellac. So shellac I think it's a pretty fragile finish. So denatured alcohol is the solvent for shellac. So if you know you got a shellac finish, you can actually strip it with steel wool and denatured alcohol. And I mean, you'll be shocked at how quickly this cleans up. So the shellac dissolves really quickly. And you keep it wet, and you keep moving back and forth on it, you can get it cleaned up pretty fast. So now this is a shelf out of an old china. It has these plate rails in it. They're going to hold a little more of the shellac than the flats are. And when I'm doing these, I try and do a small area. Try not to do too big an area, and keep going over it with the denatured alcohol until I've got all of the shellac dissolved and starting to get taken away. So then I get it dissolved, clean it up with a rag, and you can see there's a spot right here that's still got some in it. I got to go back and do that, but you never get it all in the first shot. So get some more nice, clean denatured alcohol and work on these little areas that didn't come first time. And this is 4/0 steel wool. I guess I should have grabbed some 2/0, so it would have been a little bit rougher and would have had a little more bite to it. But this is going to work okay for just showing you what to do. But it's handy to have plenty of the denatured alcohol around and plenty of clean rags. And as your rags get saturated with any of the chemicals, make sure you dispose of them properly. This has a nice old patina to it, and you wouldn't have to mess with that much to deal with refinishing it, as long as you get all the old shellac off. This is a dining room table from the 70s, and this is probably nitrocellulose lacquer, which is the original version of lacquers. They have once in the 80s, finishes proliferated, and they've got all sorts of catalyzed finishes, conversion varnish finishes, etc. But this is old lacquer. Now, a lot of people say, well, the way to clean this off is with lacquer thinner. I would never in my life strip a table with lacquer thinner. It just doesn't really work too well. But you want to use some sort of a solvent-based chemical stripper and let it get on the piece. And usually I'd have it in a can and put it on with a brush. I usually don't dump it out like that, but for demonstration purposes, that's what we're going to do. So you make sure that you got it on and that you have enough on there that it has time to cut into the finish. And one of the things that I love using are just these old razor blades. They make wonderful little scrapers. So you can kind of check to see how well the stripper's working. And I mean I was really pushing it too fast, but you want to be able to let this sit for kind of depends. This thing is almost 55, maybe 60 years old, and so this lacquer is pretty fragile and starting to craze in some places. So it's going to bubble up and be able to be scraped off pretty quickly. So we'll let it sit for a couple minutes and then come back to it. Okay, so we're back. I've let this sit for a while, and I'm going to try and see if we're there. I'm going to scrape this off, try and catch it in the little container here. Stripping furniture is messy. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's messy. And you got to be able to do it in a place where you can make a mess. I mean, that's just part of the gig. So that is the stripper getting off with the scraper, and then I'm going back now with steel wool and acetone. So I like using acetone because if you read the chemical, the data sheets on acetone, it's relatively safe. The fumes are not atrocious, and it does a great job of cleaning up the surface. I mean, look at that. That's one coat of the stripper, and then flushing it off with acetone freely, and look at how clean that is. Now, David, if you can pull back and get a contrast between this spot we cleaned and this spot, this old lacquer that has the finish still on it. People that are new to this are always wondering, well, how do I get back to what this looked like originally? Well, this was a factory finish. Most of the color in this was in the lacquer itself. So they put on a colored sealer, and then they put on a colored lacquer. Sometimes they would even use a glaze on this to add color to it. And most of the color did not come from staining the wood. It came from additives in the finish itself. So when you do that, I just cleaned out the finish. I took the color off of this. So you've got to realize that if you're a DIY person, you're not going to get back to the same level of complexity and difficulty that they're able to do in a factory in most cases. I mean, you know, as you get better at this, you'll learn how to use coloring techniques to be able to add character and color to your wood, but you got to realize these were done in a factory setting. So this stripper that I use, I usually use a methylene chloride stripper. This stripper was not a methylene chloride stripper, and it worked really well. And then the acetone did a great job of cleaning up afterwards. So there are some good strippers out there still. OSHA's put some real restrictions on strippers because of the fumes. They're worried about the toxicity of methylene chloride affecting your bloodstream as you're using it. So you always want to use ventilation when you're stripping, a lot of ventilation, and take breaks from it. But you know, there are still good strippers out there. The key is patience and having an environment in which you can do this. It can't be too cold, and it can't be too breezy, because if you have a breeze going over your piece, it'll make the stripper and the solvents evaporate faster, and you'll lose your ability for them to eat into the existing finish. So that's just kind of a starting point of teaching you how to do clear finishes, and experiment and just be careful. And as you go along, I advise you keep a notebook and keep notes on what worked and what didn't, and share it with the people you know around you. So good luck with it, and see you in the next video. Thank you. Hi, David Bowerly signing off here. And if you learned something, if you got questions, or even if you got an idea for a future topic, just subscribe below. Thanks.